Now, an article recently came out with CNBC that basically breaks down how SpaceX is basically another multi-billion-dollar company that Elon Musk is raking in all of the dough for. And they've allegedly broken down and explained it. This is the first time of me seeing it, but I seen you guys send it to me. I want to share this with you guys. This talks about the rapid rise of Starlink and how SpaceX is making billions of dollars as a result of it. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get to the money, y'all.
Elon Musk's SpaceX is known for its frequent launches, which now dominate the space industry. But what many of these rockets are launching is just as important for the company as the launches themselves.
Broadband mega constellation Starlink.
And we saw this garland of little lights, one after another, absolutely perfectly sequenced, and it was Starlink.
Starlink is SpaceX's answer to providing global, high-speed internet coverage using a network of thousands of satellites buzzing around the planet in a region known as low Earth orbit, about 342 miles above the Earth's surface.
While Starlink may be a business unit within the broader SpaceX company, it's seen as crucial to its overall goals of making humanity multiplanetary and exploring bodies like the Moon and Mars, because Starlink is seen as an economic engine for the company.
SpaceX reportedly generated $1.4 billion in revenue from Starlink in 2022. In early November 2023, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk announced that Starlink had achieved break-even cash flow.
Starlink's importance to SpaceX overall as a company is imperative. Eurocouncil estimates that optimistically by the end of 2023, this business of Starlink could represent upwards of 40% of SpaceX's overall business.
Interestingly enough, have you guys ever seen people that actually sign up for Starlink internet for their homes? I've seen it on online a couple times. Starlink also participates in what they consider humanitarian causes. And that largely comes from, for example, when an earthquake or a tsunami or a hard-hit region of the nation, Hawaii, for example, Starlink can then offer internet services because they're basically orbiting thousands of satellites in lower Earth orbit in order to keep us connected regardless of what our infrastructure is down here on the United States of America or any other place in the world. So I'll give you an example. It was communicated to me, and I remember when this first started happening, that they started providing internet services on planes. For example, Delta. And then they'll say, hey, through this provider or whatever, so on and so forth. But then somebody informed me and they said, Anton, that's actually Starlink. And it started making sense to me. Now, I don't know exactly how true this is, but what's basically happening is they basically figured out how to leverage different things that NASA is contracting them to do to also continue to build their own business, especially around Starlink. And one of the ways in which they make money is they're offering internet services to planes based off of the satellite signals and the satellites that's in orbit for you to be able to stream, live stream, communicate, and all of this stuff. And so I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. To have the foresight to be able to do that and the research and development that goes into it and then make it a business model to monetize it later is pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. And I couldn't understand it. And I'm one of those people, I don't just say, oh man, yeah, this is cool, whatever. I need to understand it. How are they able to offer internet services outside of the signals that we get here on Earth? Because I can't even drive down some of these streets. Y'all said for Royal Caribbean as well, they provide internet services for Royal. See, that's what I'm saying. I was scared to even go on a cruise because I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to kick it with my people. How do you offer internet services in the middle of the ocean? You know what I'm saying? How do you offer internet services while you're on a tube that's basically insulated, flying through the air, going from one part of the world to another part of the world? And so this is one of the ways, apparently, that they're monetizing the innovation that comes along with the research and development of SpaceX, which a part of that is Starlink.
This total would be somewhere in excess of $3 billion generated from Starlink.
SpaceX launched its first batch of Starlink satellites back in 2019, and since then, adoption of the service has ballooned. Starlink now has over 2 million active customers and is available on all 7 continents and in over 60 countries. Starlink has been praised for its ability to connect remote parts of the world that would otherwise not have access to reliable internet. The service has also become indispensable in areas hit by natural disasters, and more recently during times of war, particularly the Russia-Ukraine war. Elon Musk has also said, quote, SpaceX will support communication links with internationally recognized aid organizations in Gaza.
So now do you see where also the conflict of interest lies? Because the federal government then relies on the technology that's built out and implemented by companies like Starlink and Elon Musk in order for them to be able to communicate, survive, and then also thrive effectively. Yeah. And this is what happens when you also privatize industries. Now, thankfully, Elon Musk is an American and he's not from, or he's not a part of, or considered a citizen of any other country, even though he was born in South Africa. Thankfully, Elon Musk is an American innovator and he's fairly conservative and he's an American first and he does not like to suppress speech, which allows for him to be able to buy the companies like the Twitter, formerly known as Twitter X, and then also launching the SpaceXs, which then NASA contract them for a lot of the different things that they're doing. It allows for him to also mine out the business opportunities that come along with the company. Because let's be honest, it's always going to come back into the money.
Gaza, although Musk said in late October that no Starlink terminal has attempted to connect from Gaza yet. But Starlink's growing influence is garnering condemnation from some who say that Musk is meddling in geopolitics.
A Ukrainian official says that you have enabled Vladimir Putin as an aggressor. What do you say to that?
Meanwhile, the scientific community has its own concerns.
The astronomical community got concerned because the projection of the full constellation of several tens of thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit was immediately seen as an interference to both the optical observation and to radio observation.
But none of this has slowed down SpaceX's ambitions to expand Starlink's service even further. CNBC explores what has led to Starlink's rapid adoption and growing influence. With around 5,000 active satellites now in orbit, Starlink satellites account for the majority of all the world's active satellites.
This growth is uncharacteristic in the sense of its magnitude, whereas prior satellite service providers have ramped up to anywhere at most between 500,000 to a little bit over 1 million subscribers, and this has taken, a 10-year period. Starlink's race to 2 million subscribers has taken only the better part of 2 years.
Experts estimate that the global market for consumer satellite services, including TV, radio, and broadband internet, was worth over $92 billion in 2022. And Starlink could be in a good position to capture a big piece of this market going forward. By design, LEO satellite constellations like Starlink are more flexible than geostationary satellite networks, like those operated by legacy satellite internet service providers Viasat and HughesNet.
These satellite service providers have been constrained on capacity. They launch large geostationary satellites that are the size of a minibus, weighing multiple tons, and they last 15 years. So what ends up happening is they have more boom-bust cycles than Starlink, who tends to introduce capacity so far at an unrelenting pace. So they're able to onboard more and more subscribers by continually launching new satellites. For the incumbent players, they're kind of stuck with what they have.
So even when it comes to space, it's still capitalism. It's still capitalism. It's basically who can compete, who can out-innovate, and who can take over the majority of the share of the users that then generate all of the revenue and allows for you to continue to grow as a company. Elon Musk is very smart. He did the same thing when it came to PayPal. He did the same thing when it came to Tesla. He did the same thing when it came to Starlink and SpaceX. He was more focused on growth than he was on profitability. And companies that focus more on profitability, they have to be constrained based off of what the budget is and their bottom line. Elon Musk figures out how to do things innovative, and then he figures out how to monetize it later. Tesla, for a long time, people didn't even understand it. I didn't even understand it. I didn't realize that Tesla was an innovation company. Yes, Jeff Bezos did the same thing with Amazon. Tesla is a technology company. It is not a car manufacturer. It's largely generating the majority of its revenues, not just from cars, but also the innovation that comes along with transforming an industry. And so for a long time, they didn't make money, but now they have a higher margin as far as how much they make per car, even though they're doing it at scale, meaning that they're doing it at largely larger manufacturing rates based off of the fact that the Tesla Model Y worldwide is the biggest selling car ever. Right now, per quarter, the Model Y worldwide is the largest selling vehicle. And they're making more per vehicle, which allows for them to be able to drive down the cost, right? And put pressure on other automakers in order for them to continue to compete and take market share away from the people. So my point is that his understanding of business also intersected with the innovation and the research development of starting SpaceX in the first place. A lot of people thought SpaceX was just a space exploration company and that they were looking to send people into space. No, they were looking to continue to monetize the idea of what the possibilities of space could be when they started launching satellites up there. And now they got over 2 million people as a part of their internet service providers. People are getting internet in spaces that they never would, or they never could, or they wouldn't move over into those spaces because they had no connection to the rest of the world. Now you can be in a remote part of the earth and still have an internet connection based off of you still subscribing to Elon Musk Starlink connection. Ain't that crazy? Man, we are racing to the bottom as far as technology because we're going to out-innovate ourselves.
Although initially conceived for the consumer segment, Starlink's offerings have expanded to serve enterprise markets, including the maritime and aviation industries.
Starlink is absolutely witnessing explosive growth in the maritime segment, having captured commitments for over 4,000 vessels by our count as of the third quarter of 2023, and now have confirmed commitments on over 400 commercial aircraft and business aviation aircraft.
SpaceX has also announced plans to offer cellular satellite connectivity to unmodified smartphones, in partnership with several global telecom partners, including T-Mobile in the US. It's a feature Apple introduced in the iPhone 14 in partnership with US satellite operator Globalstar.
Your phone or mine, if they're compatible with the T-Mobile network, they will be compatible with Starlink's direct-to-cell service. So when you exit coverage areas on rural highways, national parks, just areas of poor cellular coverage, you'll be able to automatically roam onto a space-based network extension of T-Mobile's network, essentially.
And if you go on Delta's planes today, it will say internet offered free courtesy of T-Mobile when you get on a more modified or a more updated plane that actually has internet connections when you fly through the sky. Once you take off and once you're in the air, you can connect. If you are a Delta Sky Miles member, you can connect to their free internet courtesy of T-Mobile. And now it's starting to make sense because I didn't even know what T-Mobile had to do with the idea. Because I know that T-Mobile ain't got no satellites in the air. Well, T-Mobile partnered with Starlink in order to continue to give service to, and they partner with the airlines, and I'm sure that the airlines pay them a fee, and that's how they continue to make money. And so Starlink and T-Mobile is making money as a result of partnering with Delta. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And the possibilities of what could happen, now that you have all of these interconnected companies that they own is wild, bro.
A factor that's helped Starlink's rapid growth is the independence with which SpaceX is able to operate.
Starlink is vertically integrated. It makes its own satellites, it launches them, and it's crafted its own service. So it's almost completely disintermediated in terms of suppliers and its distribution channels.
It's a portable system, so when you think about how you connect to Starlink satellites, it's a small antenna or terminal, fairly inexpensive, and all you need to do is plug it into a power source.
But making its equipment user-friendly has not come cheap for SpaceX. Early on, the company faced steep costs to manufacture its consumer antenna. Production was initially estimated to be as high as $3,000 per unit. At the time, SpaceX charged consumers $499 for its equipment, meaning the company was eating a lot of the cost. Since SpaceX has cut the manufacturing cost of its antenna to under $600, and charges residential customers $599 to buy them. Starlink's ease of use and deployment has made it an indispensable tool in the Russia-Ukraine war.
The big benefit of Starlink and how it's being used in Ukraine today, it is communications. It's providing a pathway for the military, for civilians to stay connected to the outside world. It allows a pathway for the military to communicate with each other and to provide command and control direction to their forces.
SpaceX began offering its Starlink service to Ukraine at the request of Ukraine's digital minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, back in February 2022. Here's Musk reflecting on Starlink's importance at the 2023 Viva Technology Conference in Paris.
Russia had actually taken out all of the satellite communications and all of the ground communications except for Starlink. It was the only one that was still operating. And even today, it is still the only one that is effective at the front lines. And
that's pretty insane, bro. That's pretty insane that he can basically circumvent the intentions of one country at war with another country and still offer services because they have no access to be able to take down what it is that he's already launched above their capabilities. I remember when Trump said that there was going to be a space force and everybody laughed at him. Remember when Trump said, I hate to bring this back to the front of the congregation, but this is what happened. Do you remember when Trump said that there was going to be a necessary need for a space force and everybody laughed at him? See how everything come full circle? It's going to be wild. The future is going to be insane.